My boss was cheating on his wife, and somehow I became the villain. My married boss told me he was basically divorced. 3 months later, I found out he had just celebrated his 15th anniversary. When I exposed him, he didn't apologize. He sued me for $250,000. And that's when I discovered I wasn't the first woman he'd done this to. I never meant to get involved with a married man, especially not my boss. But when someone controls your paycheck, your promotion, and your future, manipulation doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like opportunity. It looks like mentorship. It looks like you're different. And by the time I realized the truth, I was already the villain in his story. I never meant to find out. I definitely never meant to get involved. And I sure as hell didn't expect to be the one who lost everything because of it. I worked at a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago. Nothing glamorous, fluorescent lights, burnt coffee, fake motivational posters about team synergy, the kind of place where you count the minutes until 5 p.m. My boss, Daniel, was the golden child of the company. Mid-40s, perfect hair, expensive suits, married with 2 kids. He talked about his wife constantly. Emily makes the best lasagna. Emily surprised me with tickets. Emily this, Emily that. We all thought he was husband of the year material. I was 26, new to the company, trying to prove myself. Daniel took an interest in mentoring me. At first, it felt flattering. He'd compliment my work in meetings. He'd stay late to review strategies with me. He'd tell people I had executive potential. Looking back, I see the red flags. At the time, I just saw opportunity. It started small. One Friday evening, almost everyone had left. I was finishing a campaign deck when Daniel came by my desk. "You still here?" he asked. "Yeah, just cleaning this up before Monday." He smiled. "You're the hardest worker on this floor." Then he added casually, "Want to grab a drink? We can talk about your promotion." I hesitated, but I was ambitious. I said yes. At the bar, the conversation shifted quickly from business to personal. He asked if I was dating anyone. He told me his marriage had been complicated lately. He said Emily didn't understand his stress. I remember feeling uncomfortable, but also weirdly special. He made it sound like I was the only one who really got him. When we left, he put his hand on my lower back. That was the first moment my stomach dropped. Over the next few weeks, we worked closely together. Late nights, private meetings, confidential projects. He started texting me outside of work. At first, it was about campaigns. Then it became, "Thinking about you. You looked beautiful today. I wish I had met you earlier in life." I asked him directly once, "What about your wife?" He sighed dramatically. "We're basically separated. It's just paperwork at this point." That was the sentence that changed everything, because I believed him. We never did anything explicit at the office, but eventually we crossed the line. I won't go into graphic detail, but it became a full relationship. Secret lunches, hotel rooms during conferences, stolen weekends. He told me he was filing for divorce. He told me I was his future. He told me not to worry. 3 months in, I got a message on Instagram from his wife, Emily. "Hi, I think you've been spending time with my husband." My hands started shaking. She sent screenshots, not of rumors, not speculation, of hotel receipts, phone logs, photos of us together outside a restaurant. She had been tracking him for weeks. And here's the part that destroyed me. They were not separated. They had just celebrated their 15th anniversary. He had taken her to Hawaii 2 weeks before telling me he felt trapped. I felt sick. I called him immediately. He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just said, "This is messy, don't talk to her." That was it. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I love you," just damage control. I met Emily anyway. Not because I wanted drama, but because I needed the truth. She wasn't angry the way I expected. She was calm. Too calm. She showed me everything. Family photos from the week before. Screenshots of him texting her "I love you" while he was in bed with me. And then she said something that shattered whatever illusion I had left. "You're not the first." Apparently, there had been 2 women before me. Both worked under him. Both quietly left the company within a year. Suddenly, it all made sense. The mentorship, the executive potential, the late nights. I wasn't special. I was a pattern. I decided to report him to HR. I had the texts, the hotel confirmations, the power imbalance evidence. I thought I was doing the responsible thing. HR listened carefully. They nodded. They thanked me. Then they asked, "Do you have proof that this relationship was not consensual?" I froze, because technically it was. Manipulative, yes. Unethical, absolutely. But I had said yes. Within a week, rumors spread. I was labeled the girl who sleeps her way up. Daniel, meanwhile, positioned himself as a victim. He misread signals. She pursued him. He's trying to fix his marriage. Guess who stayed? Guess who was suddenly excluded from meetings? Guess whose promotion wasn't aligned with company restructuring? Mine. Emily filed for divorce, not because of me, because apparently she had reached her breaking point. Daniel tried to contact me after everything blew up. "I miss you. You overreacted. You ruined my life." That last one almost made me laugh. He lost half his assets in the divorce. His reputation took a hit, but he kept his job. I resigned 3 months later. I couldn't handle the whispers, the looks, the isolation. The final straw? Hearing that he'd started mentoring another new hire, a 24-year-old. I used to blame myself entirely. Then I blamed him entirely. Now I see the full picture. Yes, I made choices, but power dynamics are real. When someone controls your paycheck, your promotion, and your future, their interest isn't harmless. It's leverage. Daniel didn't just cheat on his wife. He cheated on every woman who trusted him in that office. He built a system where he could repeat the same story over and over and walk away mostly untouched. The only difference this time, I didn't stay silent. Emily and I still talk occasionally. Strangely, we don't hate each other. We were both lied to by the same man. The real villain wasn't the wife, wasn't the other woman. It was the man who convinced both of us we were special. Sometimes I wonder about that 24-year-old.
I hope someone warns her, because I wish someone had warned me. And if you're reading this thinking, but he says he's separated, please ask for proof. And if your boss tells you you're different, run. Because if he's cheating on his wife, he will absolutely cheat on you too. I thought quitting would give me peace. I was wrong. Because the thing about toxic men in power, they don't like losing control. And Daniel had just lost his wife, half his money, and his favorite office distraction, me. 2 weeks after I resigned, I got a LinkedIn message from someone I didn't recognize. It was from the 24-year-old new hire. Her name was Claire. "Hi, I think we worked at the same company. Can I ask you something?" My stomach dropped. We exchanged numbers. She called me that night. Her voice sounded exactly like mine had months ago, nervous, flattered, confused. "He's been mentoring me," she said. "He says he reminds me of someone strong. He told me he's basically divorced and his ex-wife was toxic." I almost laughed at the predictability. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "He told me you got obsessed with him." Silence. Apparently, he'd spun an entire narrative. I was the unstable ex-employee who couldn't handle rejection. I had imagined the relationship. He had tried to help me professionally. Classic. And the worst part? Claire had believed him until he started texting her at midnight. The same script, the same emotional manipulation, the same "you understand me better than anyone." That night, I couldn't sleep. I had walked away quietly. I had tried to heal, but now he was rewriting history and setting up his next target. I had screenshots, hotel receipts, text messages where he promised divorce, voice notes. I had kept everything. At first, I didn't know why. Now I did. Claire asked me one question. Was it real? I answered honestly. It felt real, but it wasn't. And then I sent her proof. Claire confronted him. He denied everything at first. Then he got angry. Then he threatened her career. Same pattern. But Claire was smarter than I had been. She recorded the conversation. In that recording, he said something that would later end him. "You girls are so dramatic. I never promised anything. You should be grateful I even noticed you." You girls. Plural. That was his mistake. Claire didn't go to HR alone. She went with evidence, with my testimony, with timestamps, with recordings. And this time, HR couldn't ignore it, because it wasn't just a consensual affair anymore. It was coercion. It was repeated behavior. It was a pattern tied to performance reviews and promotions. And then something unexpected happened. Another former employee reached out, then another. 3 women total. All with similar stories, all with similar messages, all who had quietly left. Suddenly, I wasn't the villain. I was Exhibit A. The company launched a formal investigation. Daniel was placed on temporary leave. For the first time, he called me, not to manipulate, not to charm, to beg. "You're blowing this out of proportion. You'll ruin my career. We were adults." That word again, adults, as if power imbalance disappears after 18. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I just said, "You ruined your own career," and hung up. 3 weeks later, the company announced his termination. Not publicly, of course. Official reason? Violation of leadership conduct policies. Translation? They couldn't risk a lawsuit. Word spread quietly in industry circles. His reputation, the thing he cared most about, started to crack. Meanwhile, something surprising happened to me. People began reaching out with job offers. Apparently, when you stand up against someone powerful, you become either blacklisted or respected. This time, it was the second. I called Emily after everything. She already knew. She just said, "I'm not surprised." She told me something I'll never forget. He didn't just cheat physically. He needed admiration. He needed power. That was his addiction. And suddenly, everything clicked. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even about sex. It was about control, about choosing women he could influence, about feeling untouchable. Claire transferred to another department. The company implemented stricter policies, anonymous reporting channels, clearer power dynamic rules. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something. As for Daniel, last I heard, he's consulting independently. No stable firm would take the risk. And here's the ironic part. For someone who thrived on secrecy, his story became a quiet warning whispered across offices. Be careful of managers who mentor too intensely. If someone in power tells you, "My marriage is basically over, you're different, don't tell anyone, they wouldn't understand," that's not romance, that's grooming. And if you ever find yourself wondering whether you're overreacting, ask yourself this. If it were truly innocent, why does it need to be hidden? I used to be ashamed of my role in all this. Now, I see myself as the turning point, not because I was perfect, but because I stopped protecting him. And sometimes that's how patterns end. One person decides to not stay silent. I thought it was over. He was fired, the investigation was closed, 3 women had come forward, I had a new job in a healthier company, therapy twice a month, sleep was finally normal again. Daniel was just a bad chapter. Until the certified letter arrived. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Return address, a law firm downtown. Inside was a formal notice. Daniel was suing me for defamation. I read it 3 times before my brain processed the words. According to him, I had fabricated evidence, I had maliciously coordinated with Claire, I had destroyed his career with false allegations, I had caused emotional distress and financial harm. The amount he was demanding? $250,000. My hands started shaking the same way they had when Emily first messaged me. Except this time, it wasn't heartbreak, it was rage. My lawyer explained it simply. He doesn't expect to win. He expects you to panic because lawsuits are expensive, time-consuming, exhausting. Most people settle quietly just to make it stop. And Daniel knew that. He knew I wasn't wealthy. He knew I didn't come from money. He knew legal stress could break someone. It was control. One last attempt to remind me who had power. What Daniel didn't realize was that the company investigation had created a paper trail. HR records, interview transcripts, recorded conversations, Claire's audio file. And then something even bigger surfaced. During the legal discovery process, internal emails were subpoenaed. And in those emails, evidence that HR had known about prior complaints before mine. They had quietly dismissed earlier reports to avoid reputational damage. Daniel wasn't just reckless, the company had protected him. Now, it wasn't just my word against his, it was corporate negligence. About a month into the legal battle, something unexpected happened. Daniel's lawyer contacted mine. They wanted to reassess. Translation, they were scared because the case was backfiring. Journalists had started asking questions, not about my story, about workplace abuse of power. One business ethics blog picked it up, then another. The headline wasn't "Disgruntled Employee Lies," it was "Former Executive Sues Woman After Sexual Misconduct Allegations." Optics matter, and Daniel's image, the one he cared most than his marriage, was collapsing. But here's the part I didn't see coming. Emily reached out again, not to comfort me, to tell me something I never knew. During their divorce, Daniel had taken out a personal loan, a large one. He had told the bank it was for consulting expansion. It wasn't. It was to pay off a former employee, years before me, an NDA, hush money, which meant Claire and I weren't the first formal complaints. We were just the first who refused to sign. That realization hit differently. I wasn't part of a messy affair story. I was part of a long-standing pattern of abuse and cover-ups. 2 weeks later, Daniel dropped the lawsuit. No settlement, no payout, just a formal withdrawal. But the damage was done, because during discovery, enough information had surfaced that the company opened another internal review, this time publicly. And investors don't like scandals. Within 6 months, 2 HR executives resigned, the company implemented mandatory third-party oversight, a class action consultation was quietly discussed. Daniel, his consulting clients disappeared. The lawsuit that was meant to silence me became the final nail in his reputation. 3 months after he withdrew the case, I got one last email from Daniel. No legal header Tim this time, just his name. "You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a long time, and for the first time since this started, I didn't feel fear, I didn't feel guilt, I felt clarity. Because here's the truth, I didn't ruin his life, his patterns did, his ego did, his need for control did. All I did was refuse to protect him. I work somewhere healthier. Promotions are based on performance, not private dinners.